It's John Coombs here again. I'm still with Dr. Daryl Turner. We've been discussing thyroid gland, iodine, and reproductive cancer. Now I'm going to move on to a really interesting topic on IQ and the whole baby Einstein syndrome. Daryl, would you like to expand upon that a little bit, please?
Sure. We've been talking about iodine and thyroid and the importance of the iodine and thyroid plays in your health. I don't know if you realize it, but iodine and thyroid play a major importance if you're going to have a baby. In fact, I want to make this statement right up front before I get into the details. If your thyroid is not right and your iodine is low, your baby will be born with an average of 11 points lower on the IQ scale. In other words, if the average IQ around the world is 100, your baby without enough iodine will be born in the 80s. In other words, iodine plays an important part in the development of the fetus's brain. And unfortunately, it is not reversible. Once that baby is born with a low IQ, it will have a low IQ for the rest of its life.
Quite a serious issue, isn't it? So obviously this is an area for preconception and mothers in managing their pregnancies. It's quite a simple solution, isn't it?
Yes. Mothers have to have their thyroid balanced, and they have to have their iodine at adequate levels. And once again, we do the two types of tests. We do the ThyroFlex test for the thyroid, and we do the iodine test for the amount of iodine. It's very simple, but it has a lot of benefits to your unborn child, and even when your child is born, and it has a lot of benefits. We actually have a program that we do in other countries called the Baby Einstein program that actually takes the baby through from preconception to the age of 2 years old, and it covers adequate amounts of iodine, adequate amounts of thyroid, as well as breastfeeding, putting your baby into slings, and nurturing your baby until the age of 2. This is all the critical brain development areas. But I was lecturing in New Zealand. I did an 8-city lecture tour through New Zealand a few months ago on iodine, and I was quoting the national statistics that 1 in 10,000 women in 1985 used to have an autistic child. And I started to read the latest statistics out, which says that 1 in 88 women now. I mean, that's an enormous drop from 1 in 10,000 to 1 in 88. And on 2 occasions I was corrected. They said it's not 1 in 88 in New Zealand anymore. It's now 1 in 75. Now, to me, that is a crime. Why have the medical community in this country allowed 1 in 75 children born into this country to be autistic, when iodine is a very simple solution, and thyroid is a very simple solution. Simply balance the thyroid and give the pregnant mother enough iodine, and this problem can be resolved. I mean, getting it back to 1 in 10,000 instead of 1 in 75.
These are pretty major issues, aren't they? Because they relate to a lot of quality of life issues, productivity issues when people mature and go into the community and they've got responsibilities to the community, and in terms of the costs of the health system, overburdening the health system, because we talked earlier on that an autistic child costs the health community around about $1 million per person.
Yes.
So there are multiple difficulties involved if we allow this to happen. Can you just give an indication of how you would be pre-managing this? So you've talked about the iodine solution, and that would be Lugol's or other more evolved nutritional supplements. That's for the mother and the child?
Yes, correct. a few years ago, we discovered that folic acid was a very essential part of a woman's diet if she was going to get pregnant. In other words, when I was young, and I was actually born in New Zealand and raised in New Zealand, what we used to call handsome actors like Errol Flynn, they had a cleft chin. So a cleft chin is the precursor to a cleft palate, a hare lip, and spina bifida. And we discovered by simply giving the mother enough folic acid, it would eliminate hare lips, cleft palates, spina bifida, and cleft chins. In other words, cleft chin was actually a deficiency in the mother's diet. We seem to have overcome the most of that, and that's why you don't see very many people around nowadays with hare lips and cleft chins, because the mother is advised to take enough folic acid. So these prenatal supplements are vitally important to the health of the fetus. Including in that health is thyroid. Now, I just want to let you know, before I go on to how iodine affects this, is that if the woman is hypothyroid, that means that she'll find it very difficult to conceive. If she does conceive, there's a high likelihood she will lose the baby in the first trimester. If she gets over all of those barriers and the traumas of having a miscarriage, then it's very difficult for her to carry the baby to full term. And of course, there's enormous increase in birth defects. There's preeclampsia, anemia, low birth rate, and the placental abruption, postpartum bleeding, and quite often death of the baby. The baby is quite often born stillborn, all from thyroid. What makes the thyroid work is iodine. So both the mother and the baby need adequate amount of iodine. In fact, the developing fetus's brain needs 5 times as much iodine across the placenta as what the mother requires. Did you know that over 90% of all mothers in New Zealand are iodine deficient? The maintenance dose is 12.5 milligrams, not micrograms. So it appears to me that in New Zealand we're breeding a new breed of people or young people who are dumb and dumber. I mean, that's what it boils down to, dumb and dumber. I mean, if you can prevent your baby from having a low IQ, would you? Or should you? Of course you would. You want the baby to have the best IQ that it can have. Now, once the baby is born, of course, if it has a low IQ, it leads to all the attention deficit disorders. That is lack of iodine, which affects the brain in a major way. It causes the majority of ADD and ADHD, all the alphabet soup of attention disorders. And I heard on my 8-city lecture throughout in New Zealand, many of the doctors I'm meeting were talking about the problems that New Zealand teachers are having with trying to keep the attention of young New Zealand children. I mean, it is epidemic. And this epidemic starts in preconception. So just as we have addressed folic acid, we should be addressing iodine as a basic necessity for the mothers, because no one wants to have a ADD child or one that doesn't pay attention, because not only does it cause problems within within a young family for the parents of the child, but the child has to struggle through life, through the rest of its life, with a low IQ, and to me that is a crime.
So once somebody's been diagnosed with ADHD, as an example, will regular dose of iodine help?
It helps a little bit, but unfortunately the damage has been done preconception. In other words, you have to give the baby or the fetus, the developing fetus, the adequate amounts of iodine preconception. So the mother has to take the right amount of iodine preconception and right through the entire pregnancy, because that is what develops the brain. The brain cannot develop fully or properly. The neurons cannot connect. The shielding around the neurons that send the messages backwards and forwards from one part of the brain to the other do not and develop properly, and the child has problems for the rest of its life. And to me, that is unacceptable.
It is unacceptable. So, are you saying that it's quite a difficult thing to treat once it's been developed?
It helps. The iodine the iodine helps. In fact, we make a child portion of iodine. It does help, but it cannot correct the low IQ. But it does help the attention deficit disorder problem.
So with maintenance doses, you can actually manage the symptoms.
Not manage every symptom, but you can improve it quite substantially with adequate doses of iodide, but you can never ever reverse the low IQ.
Right. Let's move on a bit, because we talked about Parkinson's earlier on, and we're dealing with sort of the whole IQ and mental acuity and whatnot. Just got a couple more minutes. So Parkinson's can be helped significantly with adequate dose of iodine. So this is a preventative process.
Yeah. Well, the Parkinson's and like disorders, there's all the shaking disorders can be helped substantially with a balance of thyroid and iodine. So it's a thyroid iodine question, is not one or the other. So it's the same as autism, is a combination of both. You've got to have the thyroid and the iodine balanced properly.
So there's relatively simple treatment programs available for all of these.
Yes.
And that's and the tests are available. It's the Thyroflex and the thyroidine tests.
Yes. So the Thyroflex is a 3-minute test where we test the speed of your reflexes, resting metabolic rate, and your transmitter speed. And the iodine test is done by urine, is sent to our service center, and is for urine and saliva. It tells you what and how much iodine you have bioavailable.
Yeah. So both these tests are available at global health clinics. We've worked very closely with Daryl Turner's programs over the last few years. Obviously, he's been helping upskill our people and provide the scientific evidence and the evidence base for these programs. Daryl, you're a research scientist.
Yes.
You're an endocrinologist.
No.
You've specialised though in the thyroid.
Yes.
And you've worked with some of the top people in the world.
Yes, I do.
You've how many years' experience in the field?
I'm pretty old, countless.
And you have a track record. Your wife at one stage had a very difficult diagnosis to deal with, and you helped with a solution for that.
Yes. My wife actually got breast cancer, and this is I'll just briefly mention this, and I'm not making any claims or anything that I did anything unusual, but she went through all the usual treatments, removal of her breast, chemotherapy, and it didn't work. In fact, her oncologist, who she was under for a number of years, said, came to us one day and said, "I'm very sorry, but you only have 4 weeks, and perhaps 6 weeks at the outside to survive." And he says, "And you're going to die?" And he says, "I suggest you go and get your affairs in order and get everything arranged." And that's when I stepped in with these programs on iodine, sugar, and the cancer program that we have developed. So what I did, reversed the cancer, not standard treatment.
And how long ago was this?
This was, she's been in remission for about 7 years.
And she's healthy now?
Perfectly healthy.
So it's not just you've got theoretical background, you've got a lot of practical
background as well, yes.
Daryl, it's been really helpful talking to you. I'm sure a lot of people will be very interested in what you've had to say. Just to re-emphasise, it's evidence-based. Top people in the world are behind this type of research. Lugos goes back to 1831, the work that Dr. Lugos was doing. It's been a joy to have you with us, Daryl. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for inviting me, John.
And you can reach us at Global Health Clinics. That's 488-0208 in Auckland, or www.globalhealthclinics.co.nz. This interview will be held and stored onto the website if you want to re-listen to this. Thank you. Bye-bye.